Hello, this is Joe Neville and welcome to this video about Python virtual environments. So I wanted to start a new playlist for people that are new to Python, so aimed at beginners. And I was thinking to myself, what would I teach people that were just starting out? And you may think that starting with virtual environments, which is more of an intermediate topic, is a strange place to start. But let me just explain what virtual environments are, and then I'll give my reasoning. So virtual environments, what are they? When you install Python to Windows, or if you're using macOS or Linux, which Python's already installed on, you have a system-wide install, so for the whole OS. And through your Python career, what you will do is most probably install packages and maybe different versions of Python. The problem is that over time, if you're just installing everything onto the system-wide install, as you can imagine, if you're using lots of different packages and different versions of Python, it can get pretty messy. I think most people that are experienced with Python would agree that some very interesting choices have been made with Python. So this is one of my personal bugbears. It's one of the weaknesses of Python, the way that there's so many different ways to create environments and install packages, etc. Because it's like people have tried to solve this problem in different ways. Okay, but that's getting into the weeds. So what is a virtual environment? Well, this is an environment that is separate from your system-wide, so it's isolated and it has its own directory structure. And what you can do is, so if you were going to set up a new project, rather than using all the packages that you've already installed, you can just have isolated environments with its dedicated binaries, and then you install the packages that you want, so like requests or keychain or whatever you want to use. You just install it into that virtual environment, and then when you don't need it anymore, you can just deactivate it, and it doesn't affect the system wide. So when the next day when you're doing a different project and you need a different version of Python, etc., you can just have a different virtual environment that you build, install the packages into there, and activate it and deactivate it as you wish. So it's a nice way of keeping your different installs and your environments separate from the system wide. Sounds good, doesn't it? Now the thing is, this stuff isn't taught to beginners. This isn't taught day one because it is quite complicated. I think, you've got enough to learn if you want to start learning Python, and you really don't want to be confusing the newcomer with this kind of detail. And I tend to sweep it under the carpet if I'm running a workshop or setting the environment up for somebody. But the thing is, when you try to recreate this is a major barrier for people being able to set up their own environment. So rather than go in the boot camp or in the workshop, to actually get on and build their environment, and so that they can continue their Python career by themselves, this is the kind of first barrier that they're going to hit. And if you're using an editor like PyCharm, for example, PyCharm by default creates its own virtual environments for you each time. So you could be happily playing around in PyCharm, setting things up. But then when you go jump out to the command line and you try to run Python, you're not going to be in your virtual environment. And so you may wonder where all your packages have gone. Okay, so those are some of the reasons why I thought, let's tackle this head on, and that's what I want to do here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a virtual environment on Windows. I'm picking Windows because I saw recently on a poll on Twitter with 3,000, I think it's over 3, I'll show you actually. Here it is, over 3,000 people responded, which operating system do you use when writing code? 50% Windows. So I thought what I'll do is, because so many people are using Windows, I'll give it a go and try to set up virtual environments on Windows for this first video. If you don't know Brad, he's more of web development, actually runs a YouTube channel, fantastic resource. I've learned a lot from him. Check him out, I'll put a link in the description. Okay, so let us jump over. Here's my version of Windows 10, it is 1903. And with this edition, you may have heard that if you open a command prompt and you type Python, then Windows Store opens up and it offers to install Python for you. So there you go. 3.7 you can get that and install it. Now, I did this, seems very convenient, doesn't it? Now, I did this earlier, and I started getting errors where the path wasn't found, and then finally I hit so many errors when I was trying to install virtual environments and virtual environment wrapper, etc., that I just blew it away and so I uninstalled Python entirely from here, and I installed it via the good old approach of going to python.org, and that all seemed fine. So that is what I would recommend. So open up a browser, go to python.org. Here we are. And then if you hover over the downloads, you'll get this button 3.7.3, the latest version for Windows. Let's save that. And I'll open the folder. Double click there. Okay, here's the install 32-bit fine. Make sure you tick this box. It means that you don't have to add Python into the path, of course. Install now. Hit that and off it goes. So while that's in... hang on. Right, I have to hit yes. Fine, that's going to go off and install. So while it is... Great thing about this install actually is that it installs Python, adds it to your path. It also installs pip. So with Python, you have the standard library, so that's like your standard feature set, and then you have packages that people have posted on the package index, and you can import that software into your Python installation. So those are the packages that I was talking about that we don't want to go in our global, but we want them to go into our virtual environment. So I will show you that because there's a web page for the packages. So it is PyPy here. So it's Python package index. We'll go there, and here you can search projects. So you see nearly 200,000 projects. It gives you trending projects and things like that. So I will go, one that I've been using recently is keyring. So I'll do a search on keyring. There it is, top hit. And there we have, this is the page for the keyring project that I can install by running pip install keyring. It gives you all details about this. I'll probably do a video about keyring pretty soon because I think it's pretty useful. But let's go back then. Setup was successful. Disable path length. Let's do that. Close that one down. If we now we need to I'll close this down as well. We need to close that off. Close that off. Open up my command prompt again. If I type Python, good. That's our install from python.org. If it goes off to Windows Store, just close that all down, open up command line again, and it will pick it up, and you will have the python.org downloaded install. So we've got Python 3.7.3. Here it is. If you do, the obligatory hello, if I can spell world, good. Fine, right, exit out of that. Because, as I mentioned, this is the global install. So this is for the whole OS. We want to create virtual environments. So rather than putting our packages and our different versions of Python, if we were to use those, all in global, we put them in these isolated environments. To create a virtual environment, then, we enter Python -m venv, so virtual environment. And then we give it the name of the environment. I'm going to call it my venv-1. Takes a few seconds, it goes off and it will create the virtual environment for us. There's no feedback on the command prompt actually. Right, so we're back. If we do a dir there, you can see that is my virtual environment. but it isn't active yet. This is still the global install of Python. So we need to exit out that. What you have to do is you have to activate the virtual environment to then move into it. The way that we do that is so the name of your virtual environment, and it is scripts and activate. So this command is specific to Windows. If you're using Linux or Mac, it's source the virtual environment bin activate, which I'll probably do in a different video. But for now, this is how we activate it. Enter there, and you'll see this is very helpful. We can see that our command prompt has changed to the name of our virtual environment. Great. Now, if we enter Python, this is within the virtual environment. So I'll come out of here. Let's do an install. Let's close that off. Right. Let's do a pip install then. So installing a package into the virtual environment. And let's go for that one that I mentioned earlier, keyring. It downloads it into the environment. If we go to Python now, we can do an import of keyring. Okay, good. It did an error, which means that keyring's available, essentially. Let's exit out of that. Clear this off. So we have that package keyring in our virtual environment available. The way to come out of a virtual environment is to deactivate it. So I'm going to hang on, I have to type up, right, deactivate. If we go to global and I do an import keyring, there you can see I get a module not found error because I've jumped over to the global install rather than my virtual environment. So my global is clean of the packages that I want to install into that environment. So this is, a good way of keeping your house in order, keeping your main OS nice and tidy. We can create multiple virtual environments. So let's do that command again. I'll call it my venv2. Off it goes again. Takes a few seconds. And remember, we still have to activate this. So it'll be my venv2 scripts activate. Now we're in there. As you can see, my virtual environment 2. If we go to Python, import keyring, what do you think is going to happen? It's not available. So not only are the virtual environments separate from the global, but they're separate from themselves. So that's the power of the isolation for you. And you might think, okay, so that's all fine and good, but what if I want to copy the packages that I've got in one environment into another, rather than having to go and install? So we'll deactivate this. So there's a quick way you can do that, actually. Because at the folder level, we're always at the same place. Even though we're moving into these virtual environments, we're not actually in a different folder. We're in this directory here that you can see the two virtual environments. So what we can do is we can do a pip freeze. I will move into... Let's up arrow so I don't have to keep doing this. I'll move into 1. Let's do another pip install to get some extra packages in. We'll do requests as well. Off that goes to install it. Fine, clear that off. So we're in the environment. And if we want to see the packages that we've got installed, we can do a pip list. So that's all the packages that we've got in our environment. Okay, so you can see keyring that I put in, and we've got requests in there, and some others came in through as part of the requests install. Now, what if we want to move this list of installed packages into our new virtual environment -2? We can go pip freeze. into a requirements.txt file. So this will create the text file for us with the list of the pip packages. I'll show you the dir. Okay, so there's our requirements. And if we do, what is it, a more requirements, you can actually see the list. So this is the list, and also it's the level, so it's the version that we have of each one of our packages. That's really important for security, that you keep your packages up to date. Okay, so to move this into our new virtual environment, we deactivate this one. And we do the activation of 2, of course. Let's activate that. And we can do a pip install -r requirements. There you go. And then that will go off and it will install all of the packages that are in the pip requirements list. So if we do, what is it, pip list, you'll see all of those in there. Great. So as you can see, that's the way, if we deactivate that, if I can type, and then you go to, well, I'll show you actually, this is the global. If you do a pip list for the global, we've only got pip installed there and setup tools. Okay, so we've got our environments with our different packages in, and I've got 2 environments, and I've taken the packages from one environment and I've used pip freeze, and I've copied that across into the other environment. It's all in the same directory, so you don't have to move around folders to do this for this setup. Okay, this is great, but over time, these environments can start to grow and they can start to mushroom, and then they can be very confusing. And this happened to me recently when I was going to do a demo, and on my main OS that I run, my Mac, I've got a lot of projects, I've got a lot of virtual environments that I've been using that have different packages installed. And just before I was going to do a live demo, I realized that my virtual environment was actually in a different directory than where I was sat. And I was thinking, thank goodness I realized that, and I was able to set it up, because you have to activate those virtual environments before you can run your code that is aligned to those packages, you see. So if you write some Python that relies on these packages, which you would normally have in these virtual environments, you need to make sure that you've activated the right virtual environment before you run that code, or it's going to tell you, just like if you wanted to run something with requests, you know, in a live demo, it doesn't look so great when you start having this and you're scrabbling around trying to remember which one of your many virtual environments that you need to activate. So that's a problem, but help is at hand. So this is the next thing that this is the final part that I'm going to go into. We'll exit out of there. There's scripts that you can install from pip which help you out here. And this is the virtual environment wrapper, which essentially will put all of your virtual environments in the same place, and it will give you some command line tools that you can use to access and view which virtual environments you have, and then to activate the ones that you want to work on. So it makes it that much easier. When you're starting out, you may think, you know, you probably go through these different grades where it's like, I just install everything globally. Then when you get a bit more advanced, you would be thinking, I'm going to install different virtual environments. And then when you move on and you've got all of these different virtual environments and they really start to get out of hand, that's when you really need to turn to something to hold your hand with this stuff. And that's where Wrapper comes in. So we're just jumping straight there, and I'm recommending that you use something like Wrapper to help you out here. So now this is a package that you want to install globally. Okay, not into a virtual environment because it sits for the whole OS. So on global, we do a pip install, and it is virtualenvwrapper, and that's the name if you were going to use macOS or Linux for this, I believe, but this is Windows and it's slightly different. So we need to do -win for this. It's a different project, okay? I'll show you it actually. Let's go here. So it is, what did I say? Virtualenvwrapper-win. It should come up. There we are. Okay, so this is the project specifically for Windows for a virtual environment wrapper that makes your life that much easier. Okay, so we are going to run the install. There we are. So I've installed Virtual Wrapper. Now, I don't believe it will pick up the virtual environments that we've already created, so we'll just have to delete those off. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple of new virtual environments using this tool. And the way that we do that, so it's a different command. The way that we do that is make virtual, so it's mk virtualenv. If you hear that, you can see that's to check that it's installed properly. And I should say this with Python store, this is what was failing with the install of Python store. It didn't have it in the path, etc. Here it is installed straight away and it's on the path, so it's all good. So it's mk virtualenv, make virtualenv, and then we give it a name. So I'll call it new venv. Let's give it a completely different name. So I'll call it A. That's a new environment. It goes off and creates that, puts it in a centralized place, and it actually activates it for us. There you can see that it does it all in one go, so we don't have to do that activation, which is really nice. You know, it's like I said, it's kind of makes virtual environments that much more manageable for you. You deactivate them the same way. I don't need to do anything with that right now, but imagine then, I should show you this actually. If you look, it's not in the folder where we installed them when we ran them manually, when we manually created them with Python-m venv. It's in a centralized place. Why that's really useful is, imagine if you were going to, which you will do with your projects, create something like a folder like code and then move into there. My cool project, and you think, okay, in my project I'm going to create a virtual environment. I need to create a virtual environment now. You can see the folder at the moment is empty. If you were to create it via the Python-m venv, it would be created in here. So if then you move somewhere else, it would be stored in that directory. So it may be like me with the demo, it may be quite hard to find. So if you instead, what you do is you go virtualenv, and we can create a new one. So what is it? New venv b. Create that in the centralized place. That's the base. This is where they're going to be stored. And again, it's activated the environment for us. Great. And they work exactly the same way with the pip install, etc., etc. So pip install, or keyring. Python import keyring. There we are. Excellent. Right, but now if we look, different from before, I don't have the environment here. So how do I know which environments that I've got? I've got a couple of minutes until my demo. I need to turn on my virtual environment. What do I do? Don't panic. We do a workon command, and it will list the virtual environments that we got. Noticed it, not the ones that we created with Python-m venv, fine. But if you use this tool, it will have all your virtual environments that you create with the MK virtual environment. And it will list them here. And that means it's nice and easy to jump between them. So if we were, we can deactivate this one. Come out of there, and the way that you move between them is you just do workon Does it complete them for you? I think maybe we have to type the whole thing. So yeah, it looks like we have to type it out. So if I want to go to A, I can just do work on. Excellent. Can I go B from here? Yeah, I can. There we are. Right. So you can, did you see that? You can jump between your virtual environments and then you can just list them as well. Fantastic stuff. Okay, I hope you found that useful. So like I said, it's quite a complex, more of an intermediate. It's not exactly a beginner's topic, virtual environments, but very powerful and very useful, and one of the big hurdles that I think a lot of beginners hit when they're starting out for themselves. So they've done their boot camp, done their workshop, etc., trying to set up different environments for themselves, and this is really easy to get unstuck with because you don't have those packages that you wanted to install because they're in a virtual environment, or you go start installing everything into your global and you end up with quite a mess. We've all been there. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's one of the major problems with Python, I believe. That's it for this video though. Please do give us a like or a dislike, you know, either's good. Leave us a comment. If you've got different approaches to virtual environments, then please let me know. Always great to hear from others. And if you're starting out on your Python journey, then let me know. I've only been learning Python. I'm a networker, so I've only been learning Python for about 3 years maybe, on and off. So I know the pain of getting started with this stuff, and that's essentially why I wanted to tackle this topic. But that's all for now. My name is Joe Neville. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.